Okay. So do you want to speak or ask?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and I guess I'll respond, and then after that, if you want to continue speaking or if you want to ask a question, your choice. But if we do get to questions again, you should be the one to ask the first one since I did ask last.
Okay. Whatever you want. I don't care. Go ahead.
I'll go ahead and I'll respond.
All right.
Responding to your previous statement to the declaring pastors in the Church of Christ an individual that is not part of the Catholic faith. In examining the term pastor, we must realize that a pastor is a shepherd over people that follow him. In calling an individual a pastor, Benedict or any other Catholic calls a person a pastor that is not part of the faith, they're not referring to the individual being a shepherd over the Catholics. They're simply referring to him to being a shepherd over those who follow him. And an individual that holds partial truths of the faith can be, as that's clearly shown over and over, they can be ignorant to other doctrines of the faith. And it would not be wise, it would not be in tune with the biblical usage of the term in Titus 3 to label that individual a heretic, unless, of course, the person knows the truth completely and they continue to be obstinate in the truth or continue to hold partial articles of the faith, even if they know the faith fully. Such as, let's say, a pastor who recognizes papacy as an article of faith, which it indeed is an article of faith. We don't even need to read any ecumenical decrees. We know that from Matthew chapter 16, John, the Gospel of John, the Gospel of Luke. If an individual knows full well papacy is an article of faith, and they continue denying it, then indeed that person cannot be saved. And as such, any Orthodox that are aware of it, and the truth, and continue denying it, they cannot be saved. But once again, none of the arguments that are being put before them, are hold water. They're all very weak arguments because none of these individuals can be labeled heretics. So certain individuals that you brought up, because if they know the truth fully, it's really doubtful if they would continue believing as they do believe. But Benedict doesn't use the term pastor in the biblical sense of koine, in the sense of a pastor over the Catholic faith. I just want to reiterate that one more time in case you're confused about that.
Okay, my turn?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he calls them pastors in the Church of Christ. Okay, it's very clear. He says the excommunications against them are revoked. John Paul II said that so many times that we have a whole list of the quotes. He speaks of on 2005, he spoke of the schismatic patriarch Maxim, the Orthodox Church of Bulgaria. He expressed him his best wishes and for health, for the happy resumption of his ministry. Okay, so he believes he has a ministry. He spoke of the schismatic Christodoulos, Archbishop, quote, of Athens and all Greece, schismatic, rejects the papacy. He speaks of how he has the demanding service that the Lord entrusted to his care. So he says that the Lord has entrusted these people to him. He constantly speaks of these heretical schismatic bishops who hold no jurisdiction as having the faithful entrusted to them. That is blatantly heretical. It mocks the papacy. It mocks the saints. That's why Leo XIII says that these bishops, separated from Peter's successors, lose jurisdiction. They are therefore outside the edifice itself. It's never been heard of in Catholic history. It's total novelty. He speaks of it all the time. He says that he loves the Orthodox Church. He loves the schismatic church. He's constantly talking about how great the schismatics are, how much he respects their ministry, etc. But the bottom line is the Church does not teach that an individual rejects the papacy can be in the communion partially with the Church. That is not Catholic teaching, as I was quoting at the end of the last section there. Pius IX, Amatussimus, says, all who want to belong to the true and only Church of Christ must honor and obey this apostolic see of the Roman Pontiff. Pius VI, Caritas, for no one can be in the Church without being in unity with its visible head. Okay, that is contrary to the teaching of Vatican II and the teaching of Benedict XVI. And so it's just a fact. And the concept, you say that you believe the papacy is an article of faith, but you don't, because you believe people who reject it can be in the Church, partially. I believe my time's up, right?
Yeah. I'll probably take about 45 seconds so I can get water. Is that all right?
Okay.
Are we going to continue for a bit more on the two-minute responses, or do you want to go into questions already?
We could. At some point, we're going to have to move to closing statements, because it has...
And how long do you want to move to closing statements?
We could pretty soon. I mean, it has been about 3 hours. I mean, we could maybe a few more sessions, and then
Okay. So you don't want to go into the questions anymore?
I don't. I mean, it
doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, we could just keep talking. 2 minutes each.
Okay, no problem.
A couple more sessions.
All right. Okay, no problem. In response to certain stuff that you said, responding to the fact that you that an individual that is outside of the church has even ministry. Indeed, an individual does have a ministry, can have a ministry that is outside of the church. Numerous individuals have ministries. This is not claiming that this ministry is completely orthodox in any manner whatsoever. Bishops that are separated from the papacy are outside of the church. But this is in reference to those that were part of the Catholic faith and have separated themselves. And the bishop is part of the Catholic faith, and they have separated themselves, realizing the Catholic faith is the faith of God has left them. They are completely outside of the church, and they must repent. The Orthodox of today are specifically at variance to the teachings of the papacy, and as such, you wouldn't even view them as valid bishops, which goes contrary to what you're saying and to what the Pope is saying in the quote that you mentioned. The papacy is indeed an article of faith. I never once denied that it was an article of faith, and once more, a person that is outside of the fullness of the faith can hold certain teachings of the faith and ignorantly reject others. Indeed, not all of the Orthodox reject the primacy of the Pope. There are numerous statements made by John Meyendorff, who's an Orthodox scholar, and as well as numerous statements made by Callistus Ware, which is another Orthodox scholar. Two prominent Orthodox scholars teach about the primacy of Peter, whereas we would not go as far as to believing in the infallibility of the Pope. They recognize that Peter does have a primacy, as is evident in the Bible. But once again, such an individual as them, he really does not fill the biblical mandate of Titus 3 to be able to name this, to label this individual a heretic. There are certain comments that are indeed made by many Orthodox that show that these simply are ignorant to the teaching. And if an individual is ignorant, it's not possible that they can hold the fullness of the faith. And as such, there simply is no possible way of condemning an ignorant individual. That would be against the biblical mandate of the term heretic.
Okay, my turn. Well, I think you illustrated the fact that you do not accept the papacy in that last statement. You're basically expressing John Meyendorff's opinion as if it's, something that's maybe acceptable. I've read his book, The Primacy of Peter, or the book he compiled from different authors, and he does not believe in the primacy of supreme jurisdiction. That's the point. The Orthodox believe that Peter had some form of primacy, but they reject that Peter had a universal primacy of jurisdiction, and that's what Vatican I condemns. It says if anyone denies that Peter has perpetual successors in the primacy of jurisdiction, he is anathema. He is outside the church. He's a schismatic and a heretic. And so that's not what your sect teaches. Paul VI, but you basically were sort of justifying his position or saying that it's, halfway there, therefore he's partially in the church. No, he's outside the church. Paul VI, illustrating the point, they don't just believe they have some old ministry. They believe it's a good ministry. They believe it's from God. Paul VI address, 1972, greet among us the eminent representatives of the Venerable Orthodox Church, a man of great piety. So he says that their church, their schismatic construction, is venerable, and he says that the guy who's leading these sheep away from the faith is a man of great piety. That is schismatic and heretical. He says the same thing addressed to schismatic delegation, 1977. We paid a visit to your holy church. General audience, 1971. The Venerable Eastern Orthodox Churches. Speaking of the death of the schismatic patriarch Athenagoras, who obstinately rejected the papacy, he said, we recommend this great man to you, a man of a venerated church. Mutual respect for each other and each other's church. And he speaks of lifting the excommunications against them, etc. And so I think I have about 15 seconds. And they say this so many times. I mean, we have so many quotes on this, and Brother Michael's gone through every speech in the last 40 years. I mean, it's just tidal wave of quotes praising the Orthodox schismatics. So that's 2 minutes.
Okay.